Welcome to Everyday Heroes. I'm your host, Leanne Evans. Everyday Heroes is a show where we will be profiling the people of our communities and sharing their story. The hero that we will be talking to today has faced tragedy in his life and has learned to forgive.
There aren't any words that you can find to express how you feel at a time like this. A piece of your heart is gone, and it can't come back.
These are the words of Dale Lang after his son was tragically shot and killed at W.R. Myers High School in Tabor 13 years ago. April 28, 1999 was just another day, as Dale explained, until his family's lives were flipped upside down.
That morning we had gone into Lethbridge to do a little bit of shopping, and we had got the shopping done, got home just after lunchtime, and walking up to the front door of our home, we could hear the phone ringing inside. We didn't consider that unusual. Pastors tend to get a lot of phone calls. I unlocked the door, the phone kept ringing and ringing, so I thought maybe it's important, so I kind of rushed in, grabbed the phone and said hello. And that's when everything began to change. The voice on the other end of that call immediately said to me, "Is this Dale Lang?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Well, this is the hospital calling. Your son Jason is in the hospital and it's very serious. You need to get here right now." We rushed into the hospital. The person who phoned us greeted us in the entrance of the emergency unit with the words, "Jason has been shot."
Earlier that afternoon, a 14-year-old boy had entered W.R. Myers High School with an armed gun. He began firing at the students, killing Dale's son Jason and wounding another. This happened just 8 days after 13 students and staff were killed at a high school in Colorado.
And even though we'd just seen that in the news, in a million years, I don't think anyone could have convinced us ahead of time that we would ever see a school shooting in our small town of 8,000 people. So at that time, in shock, we just kind of sat down, we said a prayer for our son and waited to hear word in his condition. Finally, the door to the room where the medical team was working to save Jason's life began to open, and Diane and I stood up. As we stood up, a person came out of the room and they began to walk towards us. This person came over and they just very quietly said, "Jason didn't make it."
He says the thing that changed everything after Jason's death was the press conference that was held the following day.
But we give thanks for having Jason for 17 years. We give thanks for all our children. And we pray that people will see by this incident that lots of things have to change in our society.
I talked about the sadness of the situation and how tragic it was that a young 14-year-old boy would come to such a place to do this. I didn't know that was going to have any impact, really, but I guess in hindsight, because I didn't speak angrily, because I didn't talk about the legal system or what should happen to the perpetrator of this murder, people were kind of blown away by that. And then, of course, the memorial service 5 days later for Jason, at the end of the service, I began to pray for the young man who killed our son, and I forgave him at that point. I really didn't understand that whole thing about forgiveness. I mean, yes, I'm a pastor, and I've studied all those things and taught them and preached them and all those kinds of things, but until you have to experience a terrible thing like that, you really don't understand what it means. And so what happened for me was that about 3 months after Jason had been killed, I was in Medicine Hat actually speaking at a church on a Sunday evening. When I finished the talk, a lady came down very quickly out of the crowd, got to me first, and she said, she asked me this question. She said, "I don't understand how you can forgive the boy who killed your son. My daughter was killed by a drunken driver, I think it was like 15 years ago." She said, "And I am still angry about that, and I don't understand how you can forgive this boy for what he's done to your family." As I looked at that lady and I saw the anger in her face that she spoke about, I began to realize what forgiveness was meaning to me. When God gave me the grace to forgive the boy who killed our son, because I don't think I could have done that by myself, it set me free from being trapped in the kind of place that lady had lived for 15 years.
After the tragedy of Jason's death, Dale spoke across the country, sharing his story.
I never really sought to go speak anywhere. I've never advertised, I've never promoted myself. It was just something that happened. But I think initially it was a healing thing for me. Because our son's death, he didn't even know this boy who shot him. So going out and speaking and sort of seeing that it was having some positive impact was a helpful thing for me. It made some sense out of my son's senseless murder, basically.
Dale was doing nearly 200 talks per year at different events and has visited over 500 high schools. The main message revolved around the word forgiveness.
I don't want to go in as some sort of expert on any particular topic and try to tell you what to do. I have found that just sharing the details of the story of what happened to our son and our family, talking about forgiveness, raising the bullying issue as I do whenever I was in any school or any other place, it's part of my talk, I touch on so many issues. And in sharing it from a story perspective, my own experience, what I find is people hear it at a much more profound level than if I was going to teach you what you should do. Rather than tell you what to do, I'm going to come in and share my story, and it's a true story, it happened, and then people can take away and deal with it as they need to.
Dale says throughout the years talking to so many people, he hopes his message has made an impact so tragedies like the death of his son doesn't happen again.
I think in the long run, though, the real value has been, well, you know what, if you go speak to 150 people someplace or 2,000 or whatever, and one person is able to make some sort of adjustment in their lives that's helpful, seems to me it's worth it.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Everyday Heroes. Stay tuned, and after the break, we will be talking to an organization that is in flight for your life.
Is a big family. It's people who have amputations like me. My prosthetic limbs, the Warm-Ups gave me, helped me so much. I can run, I can horseback ride, I can swim. Your amputation doesn't hold you back. You can do whatever you want.
Over 600,000 tons of Canadian ancient forest, including the boreal, is cut down each year for tissue products, like toilet paper. That's about 45 pounds of forest per person.
To Everyday Heroes. Now we will be talking to a nonprofit organization that has been around since 2007, an effort to save lives in southeastern Alberta. They are in flight for your life. The helicopter airlift operation, also known as H.A.L.O, is an air ambulance service for southeastern Alberta. This rescue helicopter isn't like your ordinary air ambulance service, as the organization is run fully off of donations.
H.A.L.O is the Southeast Alberta's only rescue helicopter based in Medicine Hat, and it services an area of about a 100-mile radius around Medicine Hat, so we can go east, west, north, and south, and we even have been known to fly into Saskatchewan to help the folks over in Saskatchewan from time to time. The Southern Alberta Medic Air Society is nonprofit, and the money that we've raised comes from some government sources. So, but the rest of the funding is corporate donations, and then plus the rest of it is just made up of donations from Mr. and Mrs. Public. And so we raise about probably $300,000 to $400,000 a year from corporate and municipal donations, and the rest of it comes in from the general public.
The helicopter isn't the cheapest to run, and it costs $840,000 per year, and that translates into about $2 per minute that the helicopter is run.
Some people think that $840,000 a year or $75,000 a month is kind of pricey, but you know, if I had the option to save one of my loved ones' lives and spend, say, $30,000, I would turn around and gladly do that. H.A.L.O is operated by Southern Alberta Medic Air Society, and Rangeland Helicopters is under contract to the Society to provide the helicopter along with the maintenance crew and the pilots for the machine.
The need for the service is vital as response time to an emergency is critical.
Southeast Alberta has, up until 2007, has been serviced by a very good ground-based ambulance program, but there had been recognized a need on several occasions where quick response to get to the scene of an incident is paramount, and a patient's chance of speedier recovery or even survival relies on that golden hour and getting medical attention to the patient within that time frame. So just as an example, say there's an accident of some sort out at Elkwater, it would take ground ambulance 40 minutes minimum to get out to Elkwater on a good sunny day, dry road conditions, whereas H.A.L.O can be out at Elkwater with a paramedic on scene in 20 minutes. And our goal, and we have reached that goal, is to be launched within 15 minutes of receiving a call from 911.
Mitch Wiebe is a prime example to why H.A.L.O is needed, as they responded to his accident in 2007.
I was working down by the Milk River Valley as surveying a well site, and I needed a section evidence from the bottom of the riverbed. So I took the quad down the valley and I came upon a washout, and the dirt gave away and the quad and I rolled sideways down, eventually landing and the quad landing on top of me.
So then what happened?
I first panicked, and then I got the quad off myself, realized that I was not walking out of there as my leg was across my chest. So the crew that I was working with, they dispatched for an ambulance, and when a rig medic showed up, she basically told me there was nothing she was capable of doing with the equipment she had. So she called 911 again, and they dispatched H.A.L.O. When H.A.L.O landed, the paramedic came down to assess the situation. He put me out, they put me on the stretcher, and then the fire department from Foremost, I think, was the ones that carried me up to the helicopter. There was only one road in to where we were working, and that was about an hour away from any access, so it was pretty much as remote as you can get. So it would have taken at least 4 hours for an ambulance from here to get there, instead of 20 minutes that it took the H.A.L.O to get there.
Luckily, H.A.L.O was in flight just 1 month prior to his accident.
I wasn't aware that a service like this was needed here because I thought we had one, but thankfully H.A.L.O was in flight a month prior to my accident, so I was really lucky to have that service available. And I think you don't realize it's something that we all need until something like that happens to yourself or someone close to you and they need the service, and then that's really when it hits home that something like this is something that everyone should look into to sponsoring or helping or donating to.
To date, H.A.L.O has picked up over 100 people, and 49 of those wouldn't be alive today if H.A.L.O didn't respond to their accident. Thank you for watching Everyday Heroes. If you would like to share the story of your hero, email us at everydayheroes@sjrb.ca. See you next time.